Good evening, everyone. With an emphasis on everyone. Because this kind of gathering, this kind of meeting is like evoking the ultimate common ground between us all. It is like the most non-differentiating meeting that could ever take place between humans, between minds, between hearts. And in that sense, it's very important to understand that this meeting is not between you and me, is not about you and me, and to a certain degree is not a meeting. And this is because what we share in this kind of evenings, which I consider a great privilege, after teaching throughout every week all sorts of knowledge, some of it with of more relative nature. What we have here is an opportunity to finally give attention to that part within ourselves that is not personal at all. We have many layers. To be a human being is quite unavoidable. Even if you try to live only perfectly the impersonal, you cannot. Because we have different levels, each one interacting with a different facet of reality. And trying to deny that would make us, live in some kind of an awkward state of like walking on two legs and saying that we have only one, something like that. However, satsang is all about our deepest core. It's where we don't give attention to the more personal, more individual, more private, more specific parts of ourselves. Usually we treat that quite generously throughout every day. So much so that we tend to to forget that essentially what looks behind these eyes, or even behind these eyes, is deeply impersonal, deeply non-personal. It's like if these are our eyes, we tend to just sit here, just behind them, as still a specific perspective, specific experience. Navigating all the information that is relevant to our individuality, to our personality. But there is a huge, a tremendous dimension of reality behind this personal seeing, behind this personal perspective, that has nothing to do with a person, with a personal experience of life. In fact, the larger part of ourselves is not personal at all. This is both liberating and shocking, because all we know is this personal experience, this private, specific story. That is me. Me can connect sometimes to an impersonal layer, like silence or universe or something like that. But what it means to realize that my deepest me is not a person, that is quite a realization. It is a tremendous leap in human life. Because the more we take the time, the energy, the love, the curiosity to look behind our personal, private perspective and experience, the more we find there the very mystery of existence. It's not a somebody, it is that itself. A being that is completely formless completely spacious. And it is just as me as it is you. It is non-differentiated, it is non-special. It has no attributes, qualities. Yes, it interacts with life through qualities like love, compassion, energy, joy, and all that, but in itself. When we start looking into this mystery that we are, and we can only look into it in very deep silence, very deep intimacy with ourselves. We start realizing what it means to that deep within us we are formless. Because, for example, it means that we are not a man or a woman. And I'm giving this specific example because the degree of our attachment to gender is unbelievable. It has so many subtleties that it's unbelievable. It seems sometimes like one of the deepest identifications, the deepest inner definitions that survives a lot of meditation. Universal explosions and so on, and still there is some delicate structure that remains masculine or feminine. Even if we let go of the feminine or masculine form, there is still the subtle experience that our specific energy pattern is feminine or masculine. Not to be a man or a woman not even masculine or feminine. Has huge implications. For starters, it releases us from the forces of desire and the forces of attachment, because we essentially experience ourselves as halves through our desiring perspective, our longing, our yearnings, and so on, because to be formless can free me from that. And please, we need to understand the law of self-knowledge is very simple. Whatever we can perceive, whatever we can be aware of, is not us. It's already something that is far away, something that is distant, something that is, even if it's 1 millimeter away, it is already not me. It's only an experience I have, it's only a feeling I've got, it's only a perception I carry, but it's not me. And desire is in two forms, two other forms, is in the cells, because we experience ourselves as form. It surely means that we have no story, we have no life story to tell. But for real, no life story to tell. What life story can being have? There is no gathering of self-knowledge, of experience. And it also means that even our subtlest definition of ourselves as human beings is not correct. It is an experience we have. An experience we are conscious of. But when we enter our depth, we know no person, no gender, no age. We need to be very deep with this clarity of what it means to be space, to be being. To be this silence. Because there are so many subtle and elusive identifications that we have. And we still think this is us. Or feel this is us. And we can know that we feel this is us through the way we interact with the world. I can only know what I really think I am through the interaction with the world. The way the reaction, the responses. Not just in meditation. The only way the depth of meditation, the depth of self-knowledge can ever be tested is through actual interaction. If there is fear, if there is desire, if there is attachment, and enlightenment is basically the degree or the depth to which this non-personal being becomes the central force or the central element in human life. Try to connect while we are here to this part that is looking and experiencing that is not personal. You might find it much easier than you think at first. Because deep down we know it. Deep down we know that we are not men or women. We are not persons. We don't believe our own stories deep down. They all seem so made up, so effortful. You know, we always think about how difficult it is for a person to be a non-person. But what about the difficulty of the non-person in trying to be a person? It's all very effortful. Because deep down we know our story doesn't work. And that's why we keep telling it. We develop it in the hope that one day it will make sense. One day everything will fall into place. But how can it fall into place? We are the mystery of existence. We are life itself. We are the mystery that is looking back to us from the stars, from the earth, from every pair of eyes we look at. And because we feel we're naked, we try to put clothes on constantly. Because it feels scary to just be this flow of consciousness streaming from the source without definition. Those who get enlightened are just those who stop pretending. Sure, they activate this person to a certain degree because that is necessary, to a certain degree. So what am I if I'm not a man or a woman? But for real, not like a playing with the idea or with the possibility, but trying to get in touch with my non-masculine, non-feminine being. Completely non-specific. And what am I if I don't have an age? But for real don't have an age. I'm not young, I'm not old, I'm not in midlife crisis. My 20-year crisis, my 70-year crisis. Like to deeply feel ageless, neither old nor young. To seriously have no past. And to be deeply, deeply not a human. Because see, otherwise I can meditate also for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. If I don't start to take in seriously deeply the meaning of silence, what it means that at my core I am none of those things, then I don't get what meditation is trying to tell me. And again, I also can't just say, yes, I'm formless, I'm edgeless, I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, unless I can prove that on a daily basis, in my interaction, in my desires, in my fears, in my reactions, in my anger, in my incompleteness. So meditation, and even this evening, is not about whether we have a powerful experience, a powerful evening, a powerful meditation. It's not about that. You know, we can have many powerful things. It's all about the real change takes place when I'm starting to look into myself and let the revolution begin. The revolution in my deep, within my core identity, with the way I feel myself, with the way I communicate with myself at all. Because myself is not a person. And to have a form is not a proof of anything. Even to have inclinations or tendencies or a special constitution and special feeling of reality. Deep at the core of myself, I know I am empty. You know, this happens sometimes in depression and sometimes in enlightenment. Both share one thing. The one is expressed as crisis, the other one as elevation. In depression, it's like it's this feeling that everything I'm trying to build, all of my story of life, the way I weave my relationships with life, and everything just collapses like a house of cards. It's like I'm saying, oh, everything, it all feels unreal. And that's why depression and elevation are so close to each other. But depression, of course, needs to be used properly. Otherwise, it's, just a hating life and hating myself and all that. And in elevation, we also realize that everything that we've built is unreal. It's like at a certain point we are building the story, and then we are reminded that within us we've remained empty. In depression, this emptiness is experienced as something terrible. It's like, oh, what emptiness inside. In elevation, we look inside and we find emptiness, and it seems like that finally reality tells its own story. Because we are made of emptiness. This emptiness is not sterile absence. It is, of course, empty of identification, of attributes, but it is so full of the immensity of existence, the mystery, the richness, the energy, the vibration. Still it is empty. So it's to make friends with this emptiness that is anyway there. We can either be depressed about it, helplessly try to cover it up, or make friends with it. Sometimes, it seems like the whole activity of thought and emotion is just to make all the dust come up so that it will not be seen, this naked, pure reality, that there is no such thing, there is no such person. We make it up at this very moment to make it somehow interesting. Strong, contradictory, dramatic, intense, like so many forces inside, and inclinations and attractions and desires and fears, and in the midst of all that, in the center, there is this glorious self, choosing, struggling, fighting, trying. Wow, it all seems like, but it's really the whole of it is a bubble. We just don't admit just how much this can explode in 1 second, which is of course the second of awakening. So it's like being authentically empty. Please try it. It's possible to just stand for a second without covering up the truth of emptiness. The thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, they are all dust that is intensely trying to cover it up. Including the very famous yes, but. This is postponement strategy of the mind that says, yeah, I get it, but what about, and how does it, and what should I, and all that. Not to enter that, but to hover over this reality. In a way that seems very sincere, but is really a postponement. This emptiness is really the opening up, the unfolding of the mystery that we are. A completely impersonal being that has been here forever. That hasn't changed a bit. That has been before creation. To which essentially there is no creation anyway. So to say that it will ever be is ridiculous. We are this being. We are this existence. So enlightenment is when the impersonal element of the mind and consciousness awakens. Then becomes the central. Central force behind the body-mind.